let's get started with week 3's final project. For this project, you'll just need your good quality paper, your ruler, and your pencil. This is just the first part. We are going to create our square and do our pencil guidelines for the shape and the pattern. We're not going to create the pattern in this video. That will be in the next video, so you won't need your Sharpies until the next video. So to get started, we are going to put an 8 by 8 inch square in the center of our paper. And if you remember from last time, we started at the top of our paper with our ruler. We lined our 0 up with the edge, and my paper is 12 inches. So if you want an 8-inch square in the center, then you have to subtract 8 from 12. So 8 from 12 leaves 4. And if we want even amounts on both sides of our square, we need to divide 4 by 2. So that gives us 2 inches on both sides of our paper. So I'm going to come in from my 12, 2 inches. So that's at the 10. Put a little mark at my the 10 on my ruler. Come in from this side 2 inches. Put a little mark at the 2. So now I have 2 inches on this side and 2 inches on this side and 8 inches in the middle. I'm going to go ahead and show you. So I'm going to line my 0 up right there. And yep, that mark is at my 8. And I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. So I'm going to come to the bottom, put my 0 on the edge of my paper. And I'm going to come over to, make a mark, come over to, make a mark at the 10, and again that will be 8 inches. Now I'm going to draw a light guideline to connect these two marks. Now we have the sides of our square centered from left to right. Now I'm going to measure down from the top. My paper is 9 inches. So if you take 8 from 9, that leaves 1. So I'm going to need ½ an inch on both sides. So I'm going to come in to where the 8½ is and make a mark. And then I'm going to come down where the ½ inch is. And that's giving me a full inch and 8 inches on the inside. So my 0 is there. My 8 is lined up with that mark. We do the same thing on this side. Putting my ruler, the 0 on the edge of my paper. Coming in ½ an inch. Coming down ½ an inch. And I have 8 inches in the middle. So now I'm going to connect those two marks. Now make sure you're getting the correct marks, because if you notice right here, I have 2 marks. That one's from when I measured this direction. This is from where I just measured. So make sure you're getting the right mark so that you're drawing your line in the right place. And if you don't, that's why they're light, because then we can erase. And my line is a little crooked, so I am going to erase that line because we want to try to make sure they're as straight as possible. And I'm going to line my ruler back up to make sure that it is straight this time. Okay, that's better. Making mistakes is okay. And now see, I need to come down to this one. I almost did it on the wrong spot. That's why we use light pencil lines when we're drawing it out instead of our Sharpie first. So if you want to measure to make sure that you've gotten the line in the right place, go ahead and measure. That's ½ an inch. Now we have a perfectly squared square in the center of our paper. So for this activity, we are going to do a diagonal line across the middle. So we're going to go from corner to corner, and this is going to be our first guideline on the inside. Make it light, so if you have to erase, you can. Now we're going to do it from the other corners. So we're making an X in the center of our 8 by 8 inch square. So now we have our drawing like this. Now we're going to measure the top of our paper, or the top of our square, and we are going to put a mark at the halfway point. So right there, 4 inches. We're going to turn our paper and we're going to do the same thing on all 4 sides of our square. Just making a mark. Whoops. If your ruler moves, just realign it. Okay, so now we have halfway marked on each of our lines. We're going to now connect our halfway point from the top to our halfway point on the right side of our paper. So we're going to draw a guideline from the right side to the top half. And then we're going to draw a line from the bottom halfway mark to the left halfway mark. So now your paper will look like this. Then we're going to rotate it. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do from the right halfway mark to the top halfway mark. And we're going to do from the bottom halfway mark to the left side halfway mark. So now you have a drawing that looks like this. We are now going to mark each side every 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to go to the top of my paper, line my 0 up to this edge where it's, the 8's here, the 0's here, and I'm going to mark every 1/4 of an inch with a little tally. All the way across each side. So the top of your paper will have your tallies every 1/4 of an inch. And then you're going to repeat that on the other 3 sides. Once you've marked every 1/4 of an inch along all 4 sides of your square, we will start connecting our lines. So we're going to start on the right side of our paper and go across. Now, this is going to be very important when you are drawing these guidelines. We're going to start at the first 1/4 of an inch, and we're going to line our ruler up with the 1/4 of an inch on the bottom, the first one. We're not doing a line all the way across. We're going to start at that diagonal and come down to the other diagonal, pick up our pencil, start at the next diagonal, and come down to the next diagonal. So then it's going to look like this. And you're going to go from every 1/4 inch across in these 2 triangles. And make sure when you're doing it that you are going to the next one and not skipping one. Because if you skip one, then your line is going to be crooked from one diagonal to the other diagonal in that triangle. And I know it's tempting to go all the way across, but if we're just staying inside of those that triangle, inside of those diagonals, we won't have so much erasing to do. Because if you drew into these lines, you would have to erase, or into those shapes, you would have to erase those lines. Pay attention before you draw your line. See, I almost went to the wrong one down here. I almost connected in the wrong place. So just make sure you're lining it up with the right marks on the top and bottom of your page. And it might take you a second to get it exactly lined up because sometimes I have to double check. It's better to double check than to go ahead and draw the line and then have to erase. But if you end up having to erase, that's okay. We all mess up sometimes, and that's why we're doing light guidelines so you can erase. Now, you notice I have this big, it looks like a big section, but if I were to line up my ruler with those 1/4 inch, it go right through the center of my triangle. So now we have these 2 triangles filled in. Now we're moving into this big square in the middle, or our diamond shape in the middle. So we're gonna, this gets a little tricky. So here's where that next 1/4 inch would be. So we're gonna skip that one and we're gonna move to this one, and you have to make sure you're skipping that same one at the top. And now you're gonna draw your line in the diagonals from diagonal line to diagonal line to look like that. So right here it gets a little tricky. You have to make sure that you're moving to the next one in line and skipping the one that matches that point. And then we're going to continue through this diagonal, and I'm not lining it up properly. So that one and that one. And it is a little tricky. Your eyes want to trick you while you're doing this. So just make sure. You can even move your ruler to that and then move it out so that you know exactly the right mark that you're putting. So then you're going to finish going across this diamond shape. And unlike when we got to this spot, well, I have one more to go. Uh-oh, I messed up. So that's why we did light pencil marks. I can just go through and just very gently erase those lines. And because I did them lightly, they will be easy to erase. I am going to have to erase this one as well. I don't think I need to erase the other 2. I think I could have left those up at the top too, but I erased them. So I'm going to line this one back up. Yes, making sure that it's in the proper place, and redraw my line. Oh, I do need to erase this one. This one is off just a bit. They probably both are. See, this is why it is very important to pay attention. And it's okay that if we mess up. Messing up is a huge part of the art world. Making mistake teaches us how to pay attention, teaches us how to be patient, and it teaches us how to do things in a different way. Okay, that's right. Yes. Now that I'm back where I need to be, I have one more line till I get to the center. Now, unlike here, I'm going to draw a line straight through the center of both of my diamonds, which is pretty much straight through the center of the paper. Now we've got halfway. So you're going to do the exact same thing, connecting your every 1/4 of an inch all the way to the edge of this side. When you've finished all of your lines across this way, we are going to rotate our paper, and we're going to do the exact same thing across this direction. So now, where if we had it this way and we were doing vertical lines this way, we're going to rotate it to where the empty triangles are on our right, and we're going to go from right to left, creating vertical lines again every 1/4 of an inch, just like the other direction. So we will have lines that look like this. And if you notice, my lines connected to those lines. So every line, every time you come in that 1/4 of an inch, you should be connecting the lines that you drew to the lines that you're drawing now. So see how they've met in the mid right there. So go ahead and continue across your paper, lining up every 1/4 of an inch and all of the lines. And you might have to connect a little bit, but don't worry so much about that. It's just getting your lines in. So once you've finished all of your lines, you are now ready to move on to the pattern. So this part of the project is completed, and we will start adding the black lines and pattern.